Okay, the last thing we're going to do is solve these inequalities. Now, this is the way I do it. It's a bit different to the way Alan does it, but it still works. The first thing I look for is any critical values. So what can't x equal here? X cannot equal 1 because 1 minus 1 gives us 0 and we're allowed to divide by 0. So x does not equal 1. So that is our first critical value, x equals 1. And then I just solve it. X minus 1, and I solve it for equals. So this is sort of taking care of the inequality sign for a little while. And I'm going to just take that over and we get 3 equals 2x minus 2, or 2x equals 5 to bring the minus 2 over, so x equals 2.5. And there's my other critical value, or my next critical value, x equals 2.5. So I've got my two critical values. And then I'm just going to test them out, test different places out. So my first critical value is at x equals 1, and my next critical value is at x equals 2.5. And I'm just going to test. Here I'm going to test x equals 0. Here I'm going to test x equals 2. And here I'm going to test x equals 10. Okay, so I'm picking numbers in those little regions that are nice, simple numbers. So x equals 0. Now, we're interested in 3 over x minus 1. So x is 0. So 3 minus 3 over 0 minus 1. And we want that to be greater than 2. Is 3 over minus 1, which is minus 3, greater than 2? And the answer to that is no. So that's a no. Let's look at 2. So we've got 3 over x minus 1. So 2 minus 1, is that greater than 2? 3 over 2 minus 1, 2 minus 1 is 1. So you get 3 over 1, is that greater than 2? This is just 3 is greater than 2. So that's a tick. It is true for that section there. Because it's true for this, it's true for the whole section. And the last one, we're going to look at 10. So we get 3 over x minus 1, but instead of x minus 1, x is 10, so we get 10 minus 1. Is that greater than 2? So this becomes 3 over 9. Is that greater than 2? And this is a third, is greater than 2, and that's a no. So what we end up with is it's between 1 and 2.5. So we write that 1 is less than x is less than 2.5. And there's the first one done. That was a nice simple one. Let's make it a little bit more complex. So we've got x's on the top and the bottom. Straight away, what can't x equal? It can't equal minus 2. So x does not equal minus 2. There is our first critical value. Now we're going to look at equals 3. How do we solve that? We take it across. X equals 3x plus 6. Yep. So we get 2x equals 6, or x equals minus 3. Okay, so there's our second critical value. X equals minus 3. So we've got our two critical values. We've got one critical value is minus 3 and one critical value is minus 2. And we're going to test, so I'm going to pick some points. Here I'm going to test 0 because it's nice and easy. Test x equals 0. Here I'm going to test x equals minus 10. And here I'll have to test something like x equals minus 2.5. So these are our critical values, minus 2 and minus 3. So let's test x equals 0 first, because that might come out to something nice, I'm hoping. So remember, we've got x over x plus 2 is greater than 3. So when we substitute in 0, we get 0 over 0 plus 2. Is that greater than 3? And the answer to that is no. You get 0 over 2 is 0. When we test x equals minus 10, remember it's x over x plus 2 is greater than 3. So we're going to get minus 10 over minus 10 plus 2 Is that greater than 3? So we get minus 10 over minus 8. Is that greater than 3? That's a no. In the middle here, I would expect a yes, but we better test it because we have to. So we're going to get x over x plus 2. Is that greater than 3? Let's substitute in minus 2.5. Minus 2.5 over minus 2.5 plus 2. Is that greater than 3? So the top is just minus 2.5 over minus 2.5 plus 2 is minus 1/2. Is that greater than 3? Well, the minuses are going to cancel out, so we don't have to worry about those. And if we double the bottom, we get 1. And if we double the top, we get 5. So 5 over 1 is 5. Is that greater than 3? Yes. So it is in the middle, and then we can just write it out. So what do we write out? That minus 3 is less than x is less than minus 2. And the last one, we might not finish the last one. We'll just start it, and we will just see how we go. What can't x be? They're our first critical values. Well, if x is 0, the bottom becomes 0. So x cannot be 0. There's a critical value. And what can't x be here? X can't be minus 1. So x cannot be minus 1. They're our first two critical values. And then we're just going to check it for equals. So 2 over x squared plus x equals 1. I've done a little bit of sorting out already, but that's okay. If I take this over, I get 2 equals x squared plus x. And by taking this over, I get x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. What is this? This is a nice quadratic. So we're looking for two numbers that multiply together to give minus 2 and add together to give plus 1. So I'm thinking that's going to be x plus 2 and x minus 1 equals 0. Therefore, x equals, if this times this equals 0, then this must be 0. So x equals minus 2, or this must be 0. X equals 1. So we've got 4 critical values. So again, I would just set up a nice, well, not a nice simple one, but the critical values are 0, minus 1, 1, and minus 2. And then it's just a matter of testing all those things. Now, I stuffed up a little bit because I really need, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones. And again, it would just be testing. So here I might test 10. In other words, is 2 over 10 outside of 11. Is that less than 1? And that's a big yes. That's a big yes. It's a very small fraction. Here I might test a half, and I might need a calculator for that. 2 over a half times 1.5. Is that less than 1? And that is a no. Here we've got 2 over minus a half times minus 1 plus minus a half plus 1 is going to be a half. Is that going to be less than 1? And what you have there is that's going to be a yes. Okay, because you're going to have a positive divided by a negative. So remember, these are the critical values. I should have made them a bit more prominent. And then again, you would test these other two. So here you might put into a calculator 2 over minus 1.5 times minus 1.5 plus 1. And what you're going to get there is you're going to get 2 over 3 over 2 times